Hey there, guys. It's Shayrenee, and I hope you're having a good weekend. We're back for another edition of the Indie Spotlight. This is the Indie Spotlight Special Edition. Now, I tried to do this on Saturdays. I tried to do the Indie Spotlight on Fridays from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., and I tried to do the Indie Spotlight Special Edition on Saturdays. But I don't know if I'm going to possibly open up another day. But I don't think the day will be I don't think the day will be over the weekend. I think it'll be maybe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday if I open up another day. So far we're fully booked until August. Hey, what's up? Hello everyone. Thank you for joining. Thank you for looking. We're just gonna wait until our guest comes in. And today we're having Indie Spotlight Special Edition with Matt Bacon, who's a music A&R who created his blog at 14 years old. He's been on tour with a lot of people, and he has a lot of experience in music business, especially with music advertisement and developing acts. So I think that anybody that wants to watch, who wants to know and stuff about business, they should be watching this. So, about music business. So we're just waiting for him to come in. Okay. Let me sit back a little bit. I'm comfortable. Hey, Matt. Okay, I'm going to bring you to the camera now since you're in here. Okay.
Hey Shay.
Hi, how are you doing, Matt? How's your Saturday going?
Good. Just almost done work, which is amazing. So I'll have
I knew you were pretty busy.
I'll have 20 minutes to relax. I'm so excited.
Okay. So first I wanted to ask you, where are you from?
Uh, I'm from a lot of places. I'm mostly from France. Uh,
Okay.
but you have a lot of background noise.
Oh, let me see if I can try to cut this down a little bit. Do you want to get off camera and then try to come back on so you can
No,
see
no,
if?
you're better now, I think.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. So you were.
Yeah. So I was
Go
born in
ahead.
France. I grew up kind of back and forth. And so I went to high school in France, which is how I really got into live music, right? Was sort of
Uh-huh.
this idea of I can go to all these shows and be into heavy metal, and it's great. Um, so that's sort of where I'm from essentially. But I grew up outside of Philadelphia, but really
Hmm.
was born and became a person in France.
Okay. Um. So what inspired you to make your company, or tell me about your company that you made and when you started
Sure.
doing what you.
So when I was 14 years old,
Hi, everyone.
I I skipped out on there was this big long school trip. This is a thing in Europe is you'll go on these week long school trips. And yeah, so I was sick and I didn't go on the school trip. And my parents were like, you can't just dick around the apartment for a week. You have to do something. So I started a blog with my friend Dan called Two Guys Metal Reviews, which I still maintain today. And I kept getting opportunities out of that because I was just creating a lot of content and meeting a lot of people. So I was writing 2 or 3 articles a day for a bunch of different places. By the time I was 18, I'd been published in English, French, Hindi, and Spanish. like just because I was just doing stuff and people were like, okay, cool. Um, and so that ends up with me getting a job in PR. And I drop out of college for that job after 2 semesters. And the guy ends up having to let me go after a couple months just because he had a divorce and his life was falling apart. We're still friends. We're actually working on a project together right now. But he just couldn't keep me on during, that. But what happened was a bunch of those clients were like, hey, you gave us a bunch of really good advice. Could you maybe keep giving us advice if we pay you? And I was like, I need to pay my rent, so yes.
So
And then it evolved from there.
And so the advice that you were giving them, like how did you like, were you around a lot? So you were around a lot of bands, so you were able to give them like a lot of good, like you were like being like, you had a lot of good consultant advice, right?
Yeah, well, because
For
basically
them.
what had happened was when you're writing a review of a band every day, you're seeing a lot more than a lot of other people, right? So I was
Hmm.
seeing from a very early age, like, this works over here, this doesn't work, because
Hmm.
even if it was just like to see how many views on my blog these bands would get, So I was just like consuming a lot, and I was interested in being in a band, right? So I
Okay.
wanted to and because of the music I'm into, like death and black metal, I didn't really
Well, you definitely got the hair.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And
No.
I've got the Jimmy Buffett shirt on today too. So no, but like a lot, like I went to like a tiny high school with like I think my
Okay.
graduating class was like 65 kids. Like there were not other kids who wanted to play death metal. So I was like just trying to learn about this stuff for later on.
Hmm.
And so then I just started applying these lessons to other people's bands and trying to teach
Okay.
them like here's some things I have learned, and then on top of
Okay.
that I just read a lot of business books. Like I probably read 20, 30 business books a year. Uh
Well, I mean, I, I, I think that's really good. I feel like I do like when I look at the music business and I look at different artists and stuff like that, it's kind of like you become like you start taking a hold, you start analyzing a lot of
oh, totally.
things.
Totally.
So what kind of so I wanted to also ask what type of services do you offer to bands or offer to in the music the music people in the
Yeah.
music
So
industry?
I kind of have a two-pronged company, right? Because on the one side, I do sort of consulting for smaller bands, right? Usually around marketing and social media, and I help them to set up ads and stuff. And I have a whole team who I handle that with. And then I have basically a separate company. It's all under the same name, but it's a separate thing where I do marketing services for like record labels and music companies. When I say music companies, I mean anything from like I do like Flock of Seagulls merch in North America to, like I work with a mastering engineer on his marketing. You know what I mean? So it's sort of
Yeah.
like both sides of the coin are like things I help handle, and I find it
So
really interesting because the one informs the other and vice versa.
so you mean like one like you work with like a bigger or a mainstream entity and the other one you work with more like independent
Yeah.
record labels and places?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, mainstream to
Um,
people like me.
what you said?
Oh,
Mo-
mainstream to people who like the music I like.
Okay. Okay,
Not
because
like,
you
yeah,
go ahead.
no, not like mainstream, but like,
Oh,
you know,
it's a lot of mainstream places and important places that people haven't heard of. Just like if you haven't heard of it, doesn't
totally,
mean that it's not a big deal. Okay,
totally.
that's not a big deal. So where can people find you at? So I'm just like asking about your social media, about your different like platforms and stuff like that.
I am available everywhere at bacons.bits, and you will get the daily videos that I think a lot of people know me for, where I'm with the cigar. Here's a cigar. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they're lying around. I've always got cigars. Um, but yeah, so at bacons.bits, basically everywhere. Dropout Media on Facebook, The main places I am, though, are Instagram and TikTok. And then you can find me on Twitter, but I mostly tweet like dumb stuff about baseball. Doesn't really
Oh,
count.
well, no, I think what you did with your TikTok about leaving like the the music industry bacon bits was really good because like it's fast, it gets to you, it's easy, everyone's looking at it. So I think that was really unique and really good what you did with your TikTok.
Thank you. That was
Um,
inspired by my friend Curtis Dewar. I have to say it because if I don't say that, he yells
okay.
at me.
That's right, guys. Okay, so make sure that you mention who inspires you because that matters.
Oh, yeah.
What is your best advice for someone that's just getting into the music business? Now, I know that you do metal and stuff like that, and I
Yeah.
used to go to like those type of concerts like a few years ago. So me, like I'm like a singer-songwriter and I'm like an R&B artist. So, but I listen to a lot of different music, but I wanted to ask that what is the best advice that you would give
to an up and coming artist or a person that wants to do what you're doing? Like, you know.
Yeah, so that's two. So that's sort of two questions, and both are good questions.
That's what I was about to say. It's two questions. So answer about the best the best thing that a new up and coming artist would do. Number one, and then two about your music.
Yeah. I think with an up and coming artist, it's really about. I mean, my answers are basically the same because like being an up and coming artist is really the same as like having a small business, right?
It is exactly.
You know?
Like when you are, yeah.
So like you know, essentially the same core concepts apply, and like part of why, and for me personally, like I wanted to be an artist, and then I just had all this cool business stuff happen, so I never got moving on that part, you know. Oh, okay, glasses. But you know, so I think it really comes down to networking,
right,
all day, every day, right? That's a big key. Creating a ton of content, right? And realizing your music is not the only thing, but you can create a ton of content around your music, you know, or you can create, you know, the whole concept behind creating content is this person is really good at that, right? So when I do Bacon's Bits, it's like Matt is really good at music marketing and can probably give you money, right? You should probably give him money. That's the whole concept of Bacon's Bits. When you create content as an artist, it's, wow, this artist is really interesting and cool and make great music and I should give them money, right? Like that's what it is, right? Is creating content that tells your story and lets people connect with you. That's all content marketing is. And that's the best thing, and it's free. You know what I mean? So that's really the key on some level. On top of that, you know, so it's networking, tons of content. Third pillar is going to be knowing, this is a big one, but like doing your research and knowing your music history, I think is incredibly valuable.
Okay.
I think that I'll like joke about how like, oh, I've made like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point, just knowing everything about 90s hardcore. And people kind of roll their eyes when I say that and like can't believe that's actually true. But like, I know everything about 90s hardcore and I've impressed a lot of important people by knowing everything about 90s hardcore, you know, because that is what a lot of important people in rock and metal are into because they're 50 and 30 years ago was, or 31 years ago was 1990 and they were teenagers doing stuff in that scene, right? So it's like, you know, and I think it's just important to have that broad musical vocabulary because you never know when you're going to meet whoever and they're going to want to bro down about Pat Benatar. You know what I mean? Like that's so much of my life has just been like, oh, I'm in this room with an important person. And like a really good example is like my friend Life, who manages this band Alcest, one of my favorite bands. I found out he was from Bremen, and I asked him about this band Acme, who are like a hardcore band from there that another friend of mine taught me. Another friend who I also impressed by knowing about Inside Out, right? And so he taught me about this band Acme, and then I used that to talk to this guy Life about like, oh, you're from Bremen, you know Acme. And that was the beginning of a relationship because ultimately everyone in the music industry, more or less, is a music nerd. So if you can bro down with them about music nerd shit, that is their favorite shit to talk about. Right?
Okay.
Like my favorite shit in the world to talk about is like weird like black metal demos from 1983 from South America. Like if someone can like come and talk to me about Parabellum demos, like I'll just talk to them all day. Right? And it's like that's like that should be the basis of your relationships because we all care about music passionately. We're all music nerds. We're all foregoing much better opportunities in the rest of our lives to be music nerds professionally, right? So it's like fucking know how to like that is the thing all these people have in common, right? And it can be knowing your, you know, 90s hardcore is very specific to metal, but I've also spent as I expand the people I serve and the people I'm connected with, you know, like I'm finding like, oh wow, like my boy Vinny got me like really into like backpack rap. And so now, like, having, like, a working knowledge of Pusha T lyrics has, like, connected me with a whole other group of people, you know, whereas, like, most people in metal don't care about Pusha T, and I love Pusha T because I think he's incredible. Like, that is the guy who made me understand rap.
So someone made you understand rap. What exact, like, do you work with any, like, do you
Yeah.
work with any artists outside of
Oh
metal
yeah,
or
quite a few.
outside of?
Quite a few. Yeah. Like two guys I work with right now are Pat CB here and Cassiope. Are both Cassiope is like an up and coming like chill hop producer basically, and Pat CB here is more of he's like a backpack rapper and a producer. Um, so he's also pretty nifty. He's got like a Diggable Planets thing, and then he's also like clearly pulling for like Mac Miller. So I have a couple things like that. I feel like there are smarter people than me in that world, and so I feel like I can enjoy that world and I can be passionate about that world, but I don't necessarily know if I'm always, I can help those people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I like helping those people, but I don't foresee myself making a huge play into that realm because I just don't have the network there, right? Because I just look at like the size of the network I have in death metal and how it's just like cool, whoever,
Yeah.
So it's just gotta go where you know people.
Okay. So normally, like, just going back to what you were saying about knowing your music, about knowing music history. I find it also like people also know, like, they know a lot about music, but they don't know a lot about who push like different things forward in music.
Oh, totally.
And they can literally be in the room with someone that is pretty important and they won't know, but like me, I would know most likely.
I get it.
Most likely.
I get it. Yeah.
But so do you have products or merch for sale?
I don't have products. I mean, I was thinking about doing like a Bacon Spits shirt. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that would be weird or not. Like, I have a couple designs.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel like it might be kind of a bit too much. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Because that would, yeah.
I mean, like, I could. That's a good reminder. I've been meaning to get a merch store going, but.
No, I normally ask everybody that, so I try to make sure that I ask the questions.
Oh yeah.
I try to make sure that I ask the questions that I don't see other people asking in their
100%. 100%.
So due to COVID-19 shutdowns, where do you see like the face of live music and the live music industry and like that type of stuff?
I think it's going to be longer than people expect for it to come back for real.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the flip side, I am deeply surprised that no one did the super limited tour where it was like, okay, we can have 100 people on a 500 cap. Fine. So it's going to be $100 tickets. Because I think that, like, for a lot of artists who sell out 500 cap rooms, I'm pretty sure right now, especially, they could do 100. They could do 100 tickets at $100.
Sure, that's what I was about to say, because due to like the exclusivity of like any type of music, I think like any concert would pretty much sell out. Out fast.
And this is like what I haven't understood since the beginning of this is like, even if it's like, and this is like an idea I've kicked around for a while, even pre-pandemic, was like, there are bands I don't want to go see. There are bands that I don't want to go see crammed in with 500 people, or in a huge room, because it just doesn't work in that big room for whatever reason. And I would like to see them with 50 of the other biggest fans of that band in the ideal environment. And I would pay $100 for that experience. You know what I mean? And there are other people like that who would do sort of the like,
who would want to see like the same thing.
Yeah.
Who would want to participate in that.
It blows me away that there's no like Stevie Wonder $1,000 a seat, 50 people, outdoor amphitheater. That's it. You know what I mean? Like, okay,
like nobody would want to hear my like opinion on it, but I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there, but I understand what you're saying.
No, I mean, like it just seems to me like if you can't have as many people, why not just? I mean, like, and I understand that's classist, and I understand that like there's a lot of that keeps a lot of people out. But like, if an artist needs to make money, an artist needs to make money.
Yeah, like yeah, so like that's like your way of living, like if you're an artist.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying, right? Is like
yeah.
if you need to pay your bills, you need to pay your bills. Like I want everyone to access live music as much as I get to access live music, which is obviously very limited in this last year. But like,
Yeah.
you know, but also like if I'm just like a guy trying to make some money, or if I want to give my 50 biggest fans a unique once in a lifetime experience, I should do that too.
Yeah, sure. I definitely understand that. What artists have you already worked with? Because I see them saying that you worked with a couple artists. Can you talk about
I mean, a ton. Like, so I did top 40 campaigns last year with Necrot and Zach Wild. And the Zach Wild campaign was really cool because, like, that was his highest chart position in a long time. So it was sort of like, oh, wow, this is cool. Like, we knocked that one out of the park. Tight. You know, so that was a really good feeling. You know, in terms of people, you were talking about people who did big changes to the music, right? I work really closely with this band called Coven, who their singer invented this in like 1969. She's like a really good friend of mine. I love her.
Oh, sure.
And then I also work with this guy, Arthur Brown, who he gave acid to The Who for the first time in like 1965. And like, he was like a pop star in the 60s and is like the most amazing person I've ever met. Like has all these stories about like, oh yeah, you know, like I was jamming with Jimi Hendrix, no big deal. I'm like, you know, like just to like be friends with someone who is like a personal friend of Keith Richards in 1966 is like, and like to have that guy be putting out music that's rad and interesting and like to get to take part in his legacy where I'm someone who's like been fascinated with him since I was 15 years old, you know. That's someone cool I work with. You know, a lot of like it's kind of a, you know, and then I have the merch companies, and I've done like merch campaigns for bands like AC/DC, you know, via like the merch partner or whatever, you know, or I'm right now I'm doing a merch campaign for like Flock of Seagulls, which is really cool because like my dad loves that band. So it's, you know, and it's kind of fun to like do an ad campaign for like the ultimate, so, you know, a band like that. You know, so I you know, there's a lot of different things, you know, but I try to just connect it all.
So if you did have the chance to work with anybody that you haven't worked with, who would you work with? A company or a person or an artist?
Probably Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne. Just out of principle.
Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne.
Like, I would definitely move some mountains to do something with Black Sabbath. Because, like, that's, like, you know, the basis of everything.
Okay.
You know. But, like, whatever. Like, I like a lot of things, you know? Because there's, like, I say Black Sabbath, but I'm sure that, like, right after this wraps up, I'll be like, fuck, what if I could do something with, like, the Chuck Berry estate? Like, that would be really cool. You know? Or, like, oh, I'd love to do, like, an Ornette Coleman box set. Like, I've had a few ideas around, like, an Ornette Coleman box set with, like, commentary from, like, modern-day avant jazz artists. Like, that's something I would get really excited about. You know, or even to work with, like, a classical musician. Like, if I could do something with, like, Philip Glass or Terry Riley. Like, you know, so, like, I have a really broad group of things I listen to. Right? So I like to, you know, so there's a lot of different components that I'd just be, like, stoked on, you know?
Yeah, to hear you talk about like to hear you talk about like jazz, like I went for 2 semesters at Temple for jazz. So a lot of people don't really understand like how there is like so much, like there's a ton of like Black history in jazz.
Oh, totally.
And there's a lot of things that I knew about it that like my other classmates didn't. But
I can only imagine. I mean, I would definitely. The whitewashing of jazz is pretty depressing.
Not only that, but like a lot of people, like as I go there, as it being a very hard thing to learn, and like especially like the theory and everything like that, if you didn't start out, you know, doing it when you were younger. So like my dad, not my dad, my mom, she grows up next door to like a famous trumpeter that actually got killed in New York's Slugs Club back in probably like the 60s or 70s.
Oh,
His name is Morgan. His name is Morgan.
That's fucking sick.
Yeah,
That's
so
fucking
she lived
sick
next
that your
door to
mom
him
gave you
and his
Morgan.
brother and his mom. Yeah,
That's
and his
tight.
but when most people hear me say something like that, they won't really understand what was actually going on. And then when I talk about it, they were like people that were singing, and they didn't know their jazz history or their jazz female leads. But it was like,
Sure, and it's like,
the female leads the female leads like looked and sang like me.
and
Most
well,
of them
there's
at the
just
time.
there's so many like interesting, especially interesting women of culture or of color. Sorry, in like especially like 1920s through 1950s. There's like so much insane stuff.
Yeah, it was a lot of stuff in there. It's really interesting. I'm sure, just like I looked at a few like documentaries about it was some documentary about some guy who he was in like he was in an older metal group, and I think the metal group is called, I'm not sure if it's called a Pentagram or not, and he's living in like his mom's basement. The guy comes in and he revitalizes his career, and I'm just like, wow, like, so I do look at something.
Do you want to know what's funny? That guy is in a new band, and I literally, right before doing this, I finished writing the ad copy for that band.
Oh, wow. Okay. See, okay. Cool.
Like, literally half an hour ago.
Oh, okay. See, so I really like knowing a lot about like music history and stuff. So, I know like you have, you're really busy and you have a limited time to offer. So, I just want people to know where to, let me see, make sure that I asked. Go ahead, let me last question. Well, that's okay. So, hopefully, like, I'll like talk to you and just like do some type of work with you in the future. I don't know in what way, I mean, but
honestly, like, even if you just want to like talk about like Ethel Waters and Dinah Washington, like, I'm down for that too, because I don't really have a lot of other like early 20th century black female jazz singer addict friends.
Oh, like that knows about like early, yeah. Like watch. All they have to do is watch a documentary. All they have to do is watch a few documentaries. Like but I'm sure the research on a lot of stuff is crazy. The research on why like a lot of music is doing what it's doing is like, I don't want to like talk about like evil and tritones and all that other type of stuff. And rock stars knowing about like,
I get it.
Like the way like Beethoven or one of those people like played or some shit like that. But yeah, like, so I'm glad that like we talked about both kinds of music, and that some about what I know about, and let me not get started on like the history of like hip hop and stuff like that.
Oh,
but thank you.
We can go down that rabbit. That's a rabbit hole for another day. I'm like super about that.
So I wanted to ask you, like, tell people like where they can find you at again, and then we can just like wrap up the interview.
Yeah, totally. No, again, at bacon.bits everywhere, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. Do it. Find me. We can talk about the history of hip hop and how like fucking insane it is that Grand Wizard Theodore discovered scratching because his mom yelled at him. Like,
I'm sorry, say that again.
Do you know that story? So Grand Wizard Theodore, like, who invented scratching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically what happened was he was mixing, and then his mom yelled at him to come to dinner, and he put his hand on the record, and it made the scratch noise, and he was like... and that's how scratching got invented.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Absurd. Anyway.
That's great. No, but I'm glad, like, you actually knew, like, something. Like, I could pull out something from... I think, like, if you're a real music historian or something like that, you should be able to pull out a story or some type of historical tidbit from one of the genres of music, because I probably...
100%. Like, yeah, no, like, this is what I'm saying, right? Is it's like, you gotta have... Because that's, like, how you and I just connected, like, for real. Was like, yeah. Oh, you and I both like Dinah Washington. I don't really meet a lot of people who like Dinah Washington. Yeah,
I think they don't. I think it's because like when we look at music, we look at who was highly publicized, but we don't look at who laid the bricks and like foundation for those people to the island.
Fucking Big Mama Thorntons of the world. Do you fuck with Big Mama Thornton?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you know Big Mama Thornton?
Oh, yeah, Elvis Presley made her song Hound Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I know who Big Mama Thornton
I'm
is.
gonna go listen to her right now.
And I'm sure like Lead Belly and
Oh yeah,
and Blind Willie and all those people. So I'm glad like you know about that type of stuff.
I got you. Fucking old blues all day.
Awesome. So I thank you for coming on my. I thank you for being a guest on my.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for being a guest on here, and thank everybody for watching. And if you want to watch it again, you can always go to my page and look at IGTV if you want to pull it. Thank you,
God
guys.
bless. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.
Have a good night.